Superman 24, legacy number 867. This is Joshua Williamson writing with Eddie Barrows and Eber Ferreira on the art. So, yeah, so here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
This issue does things that I kind of like, even though I don't like the context around why it's happening. And by that, I mean, it splits the characters into two. Superman is dealing with some business stuff at Supercorp, while Lois goes off to help the Justice League because they need a Kryptonian. She's like, hey, I'll go instead. You're needed here. I'll go be Superwoman. I kind of like the idea of her like having her first experience doing that, especially with the weird team she ends up with, where she's like paired with Creeper of all people. It's like, okay, fine. But I don't really like that Lois has superpowers. So ignoring that, ignoring the base level thing that I don't like here, I don't mind the idea of this. I also, have a decent enough time with them catching Mercy and Lex smooching. That's whatever, that's fun enough. However, this is Joshua Williamson, so he has to do something to piss me off by the end of the issue. Matt, do you have any idea what might have upset me by the end of this issue?
Does it involve Mercy?
Yes, it involves a twist that for some reason she's just doing evil things and selling Supercorp weapons off to the Coons.
Talk about a heel turn for no reason. There has been nothing with Mercy through these entire 24 issues that has suggested that Mercy is running bad things, right? No hints of Superman being like, hey, Mercy, we've talked about this. We need to keep things above board. Nothing. So suddenly when the Coons have Supercorp guns, right, and they're attacking, they're testing them, wherever that they're at with the Creeper and Lois. And then Mercy, not only does she break bad, but she's given herself a kryptonite heart.
She's just a super villain. Yeah, she's given herself a metallo heart for reasons. Right? My thing with this is that the comic book is technically, I think, structurally well put together because the entire Superman side of the plot is him talking to Lex, Lena, and Mercy about all the technology they've made that could be used for helping people, and he's a bit weird about charging money for it, so he's debating with them about how this should all be free for people to use if it's going to help save lives and things like that. Stuff like, robots that can like help pick people up and take them to the hospital and put them in stasis fields, all that kind of thing, right? All fine. And the fact that you have Lois's plot where they're fighting the Coons in the ruins of Markovia, and it ends with a cliffhanger where she sees something and looks shocked. I instantly knew what it was. I was like, oh, their weapons are coming from Supercorp. That just makes so much sense based on the two plots that we've got going, that they would intersect again at the end, and that would be kind of like, hey, Superman, we've got a big problem. Someone's selling our weapons from this company to, evil forces, whoever's buying, probably. And immediately it becomes this Mercy thing. And what you're right in saying that nothing felt like it was hinting at this, and I also feel that way. But I also just feel like it's made her less interesting because now she's just a villain. Now she's like, before it kind of felt like, oh, maybe Lex was always the really bad one and she was loyal to him, so she always helped him with his bad stuff. But now we're in this position with the amnesia Lex, although he's kind of got some of his memories back. It's happening slowly, apparently. He's not all back yet.
Yeah. So I like here because when they come to arrest him, right, it's because the logic is the Metropolis police are like, yo, we gave him a leash when he had no memory because he wasn't Lex Luthor. Yes. Now that he remembers who he is, he's now Lex Luthor, which means he's a danger to society. He needs to be locked up for all the things that he did. So I like that, and I like that Lex is like, well, look, I'll just go. They're right. Like he's paying a penance. So it shows some character development there for Lex. Right?
Yes, and I'm already kind of annoyed because I don't know if it's the teaser text at the end of this issue or if it's just a headline I saw, but there was something to the effect of the real Lex Luthor's back in issue 25, and I'm like, okay, but like as much as it was kind of weird we were doing an amnesia plot, like I actually kind of like the idea that even as he gets his memories back, maybe because he's had time to experience, like to live without those memories, and now we can sort of consider how he feels about who he was before. Then maybe he'd be a more interesting, complex character. So I'm hoping he's not just a villain again next issue.
No,
I think that would be annoying.
Yeah, because I'm hoping that this ends, right? So Mercy has the Metallo heart now, and she's given it to herself. And then she has made a clone of Lex with Kryptonian powers.
That's right,
that comes out at the end. And she's hitting them with kryptonite. So hopefully this is going to be, you know, Lex showing his true colors by defeating this evil Lex. You know, that's what I hope it goes to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that headline I saw was referring to this weird clone rather than what regular Lex is going to actually become. But I just like, there's so many pitfalls here where I feel like Lex Luthor's story here, given how much time they've spent to him not knowing who he was, is far more interesting if he comes out on the other end, even with these memories, as having more conflict and more remorse for who he's been and wanting to do the right thing. And maybe arguably him having to sort of cut ties with Mercy, who he's kind of falling for, would be like a great show of him being like, no, what you did was wrong. I'm better now. I can't align with you. You know, like, if he turns her away and like helps everyone stop her, that could be a bit more meaningful because he's been, you know, having a relationship with her. But I don't know. I maybe that's what Williamson will do. Maybe it's not. But I have to admit, everything with Mercy turned out to be being like so loyal to Lex that she believes that we need like the old Lex Luthor around in some form. Like, you know, we need a Superman, but we also need a Lex, because without the Lex, you don't get the progress where the you know, the battling between them, the race of everything, whatever she says towards the end, I can't remember.
No, but that's the whole thing. Is like, well, then you be the Lex. You don't need Lex. Then you take that void, right? You want to be that social climber type person, and you take that spot yourself, and you were playing Superman the whole time, right? Let's give it a little time, but that's not what it feels like. She's just like, well, I've always been evil. Ha ha ha.
I think what another interesting avenue they could take with Mercy specifically here, I suppose, is this idea that she idolized Lex so much that she's basically seduced this more innocent one who doesn't really, like, you know, he's inherently a little bit vulnerable because he doesn't have his memories, he needs help, and she stepped in and almost like a, I don't want to say predator, but like she stepped in and said, hey, I can be his shoulder to cry on, I can be there to, and it's almost like her getting to live out her fantasy, but at the same time she's like, no, but I need the real nasty Lex as well, because I need him to, because that's why I liked him in the first place, was like they could do something interesting with a really unhealthy obsession that she has, and even have like Lex realize that it's a little bit manipulative how she's kind of like formed this relationship with him, whilst also conspiring to like be more like the old Lex behind his back. There could be something interesting there. Well, I don't trust Williamson to do it though. No,
because you got to think that she's been working for Lex this whole time, and she's always understood that he's the villain. That's why she came to work for him, right? So she has no need to work for this good Lex. That's not what she's in the business for, right?
But so she likes having him as a little sex puppet dog.
Sure, we could have that. She's not attracted to his vulnerability, right? She wants that, you know, takes command, wanting to kill Superman Lex, and that's just not who he is anymore.
I think she likes that he needs her. So I guess in that way she is attracted to his vulnerability, but not in the same way that she was attracted to like what he was before. Right.
So, but give yourself a kryptonite heart. That's a step too far, man.
Yeah, that's where it just goes into comic book nonsense. Like she's giving herself Metallo like stuff. Yeah, like all right, whatever.
There was another thing that the Kuns mentioned, is that she has, it says, oh, her power like the one from New Kandor, right? So I'm wondering if that's hinting at was New Kandor where Zod was? Was that the setup?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so they're hinting at that too.
Maybe I don't know. Actually, on that subject though of like not remembering something, when they were going to like Markovia or the ruins of Markovia, there was an editor's note or someone said something in the issue about like what happened here, and the editor's note said, oh, and this was something that happened, you know, back in whatever event it was, and I was like, I could not have. If you asked me to guess 100 times right now, I cannot tell you what happened in the Markovia. Oh, it was the Ra's al Ghul story. It was the one where he got assassinated. It was the end of that story. Apparently, this happened to Markovia, but I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, that was all the Leviathan stuff. Leviathan raised Markovia because they were trying to take out Ra's.
Okay, that sounds familiar. But up
until this issue, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I can remember that. When they said the ruins of Markovia, I'm like, what happened to Markovia? I'm like, I read that story.
Well, because you're also reading Batman and the Outsiders, so you're spending some time in Markovia recently. back in its glory days.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that later on today.
Yeah. So, but yeah, her having that heel turn at the end really soured me because I was mostly enjoying everything. Like again, when Lex didn't fight the police chief, I was like, yeah, you know what? He's right. I have to go. And it's like, is that a play for him to no, I'm laying low longer? I don't know. But the fact that he was just like, yeah, no, this is who I was. I need to pay a price for it. I like all that. And then for Mercy to be like, oh yeah, I've been selling it. I've been doing this the whole time. I need to take, sure, Supercore is yours, but it needs to be more like Luthor Core. And I was just like, oh God, this is frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the art goes, there's two artists here. I do like Barrows for the most part. I've liked him ever since his stuff on Detective Comics back when we started the show. Yep. I do think Fariah's art, which I think is all the Lois and Markovia stuff, if I was to just quickly guess.
Here's the thing: is Ferreira and Barrows' art are very similar because the stuff with Superman and Lena that I just turned to looks a lot like Barrows, but so does the Lois stuff in. So I wonder if they just split pages because I don't see a designation on here. Let me look.
No, there is some pages of the Superwoman stuff that feels a little different to me, but I mean I could be.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they just split pages because there's no credit on who did what page here. So yeah, but they both complement each other very well. Like the art styles are not different enough to make you.
Yeah, but I do, like, as much as you're saying that, I do think there's, like, one of the artists is better at doing faces, and I think Barrows is the one that's better at doing faces, because there's some panels, and it's particularly in the Superwoman stuff, it's when Creeper says, hey, you need to look at this Superwoman, and he shows her the big gun. Like, those faces there look a lot flatter than the rest of the faces in most of the issue, and I think that stuck out to me as being a little bit weaker. Generally speaking, though, I quite like the action layouts and the kind of the moodiness of it. There's pouring rain the entire time during all that Markovia stuff that looks quite good. I like the, just kind of the moodiness of Barrows because there's a lot of shading typically. So, like even that panel of Superwoman walking in at the end with the giant super cannon and being like, we've got a problem. I think some of that stuff looks pretty good. So, no. Admittedly, is Eddie Barrows the right choice for Superman? Arguably, there's probably better characters that suit him more. Yeah. But it's quite interesting sometimes seeing an artist who's maybe better doing Batman, doing a couple of Superman issues just to see just to see what they add to it. And
yeah. I don't know if it's because I read so much of his Freedom Fighter stuff, because Eddie Barrows is doing a lot of that. I always associate Barrows with, like, Hawkman, like this kind of dark and gritty kind of character. But I like that it seems to contrast with Superman here, and it adds like this darker tone to the story, especially when you look at it from we know where it goes with the evil Lex at the end. It almost feels like there's just a shadow being cast upon Superman the whole time. So I think it works. And also the evil Lex clone coming up in the rebirth, not the rebirth, but Superman Reborn costume with the black with the silver S. And stuff. I just think that's a nice little touch here.
I don't know. I don't know about the decision to put him in that outfit. Like, I get thematically what they're maybe saying with it, but I don't know. Plus, he's also got red glowing eyes, which does suggest to me that she's actually made a Kryptonian version of Lex of some way.
It's just Superboy 2.0. It's half Kryptonian, half Lex.
Yeah, it might be.
And in that case, give him a big red mullet while we're at it. Yeah, right? Do the full.
Do you know my problem with this heel turn is as well? Is it forgetting just specifically the fact that it's Mercy and the stupidity of the I've given myself Metallo's heart bollocks, which really makes it comic booky and silly, is the fact that I kind of like the idea that someone is using the resources of the Supercorp company to do something bad and they find out about it. I think I don't like that they only just kind of introduced this idea in this issue, and by the end it's used to do this reveal. I feel like if they'd, like, at the start of an arc, like, brought up that they were developing... I mean, don't get me wrong, I know when they first got Supercorp back in issue 1 or whatever, I'm sure there was a tour where they said they were doing a bunch of stuff, But if like 4 or 5 issues ago, they kind of reminded us and said, "Hey, we're making this stuff. We're building, non-lethal weapons, and we're making like defense devices and things like that," just so that it felt like we built up to this a little bit. But it kind of feels like this issue mostly introduced the idea that they were making a lot of tech that they wanted to sell, and then immediately in this very same issue, there's already aliens using the tech.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It feels a little bit rushed in that sense to me as well.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So yeah, everything about the heel turn at the end with Mercy just it's not surprising per se. It's just not that satisfying.
No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not satisfying. I was gonna say not interesting. That's not even it. It's not satisfying.
Yeah. All right. What are you giving Superman?
I'm gonna give this a 7.
So it's a bit in the positive side, given the conversation we just had. I think. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6. Like, it would have been higher. See if they didn't have the heel turn at the end, it would have been significantly more than just flat good. But it goes a bit under that because the heel turn annoyed me.